Hi, this is Ken McCarthy, and I wanted to share a few things with you. I have been putting out articles on our current circumstances starting in early March. If you haven't read them, you might. They're pretty useful, and the information that I shared in early March is holding up very well in early April. But I want to share some really fundamental things very briefly. I'll be frank, I'm doing a lot of education with my system club members. You know, that's the business I'm in. A lot of you are in the internet marketing industry, and you know very well if you trace back what you're doing, uh, it may well trace back to stuff that I was doing 10, 15, 20, now 25 years ago. Um, you might check in with us and see what we've been doing the last several years. And we have spent a lot of time on health pre-pandemic, and that's because I'm a little older than I was 25 years ago. I've seen a lot of good people die young in our industry, and it's become a real serious study of mine. So I've been mixing up uh, the marketing advice with some fundamental basic insight into health. And I'm going to share a few things with you that'll give you some understanding of what we're going through right now, maybe put your mind at ease, give you some indication of, on a health basis, what you need to think about. Let's hit something really fundamental. Um, there are a lot of viruses in the world. There's a lot of bacteria in the world, and they ain't going nowhere. And new viruses in particular crop up all the time. Welcome to life on Earth. That ain't going to change, and the doctors ain't going to be able to save us from them. What saves us, and what has always saved us, is our God-given immunity system that we all have. And it's all within our power to take care of our immune systems. And it's a lot of logical stuff. Fresh air, sunlight, don't stress yourself out too bad, don't abuse drugs and alcohol, don't smoke, don't eat crap, try to get normal rest. That will take you a long, long way. Get most of your food from the produce department, not the microwave department. But that's a whole other topic, and it's a long topic, but there's a lot of fundamental things that we can do. Now, it's been said that the reason that this virus is such a big problem is that the human immune system has never seen it before and therefore doesn't know what to do with it. That is flat out not true. Okay? Even the hysterics on TV admit that the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people that come in contact with and even are infected by this virus either have no symptoms, that's a lot of people, by the way, I think it's like 30%, or they have mild symptoms, they're a little tired, they have a fever, or they have really like obnoxious symptoms, like painful for them, they're bad, painful cough and so on. It is only a very tiny percentage of people that have these super negative outcomes, including death. Okay? So, in fact, the human immune system does know how to deal with this, and it is dealing with it. That's the proof. I don't know how much more logical you can be. For anybody to get on TV and say that the human body cannot deal with this is, I mean, you don't need to be a PhD or a doctor to realize it's just utter nonsense. So is this serious? For certain people, this is deadly, deadly serious. Okay, that's a reality. And there are many viruses, bacteria, illnesses that are very serious for people who are already ill. Okay, this is just a particularly extreme one for them. But that's the case. Healthy people are contending with this. Now, one of the things that you're not being told, and I'm not giving medical advice, and I'm specifically not saying to not take your ACE inhibitors, but if people that have high blood pressure in particular, heart disease, diabetes, there's all kinds of diseases that the pharmaceutical industry has decided need to be treated with ACE inhibitors. Okay, Tens of millions of people are on these things. Right? That's a fact. It's a documented fact. One of the things the ACE inhibitor does, it elevates levels of something called ACE2. That's a fact, not debatable, not conspiracy theory. Also a fact, not debatable, and not conspiracy theory, is that this virus loves people with elevated ACE2 levels. I'm not saying get off your ACE inhibitors. I'm just telling you the medical fact that you're not being told on TV. You're not being told on TV because, and you can verify this yourself, and especially pre-pandemic, half of the ads on the news are pharmaceutical companies. ACE inhibitors are their cash cow. They are not going to talk about this problem. Okay? Most of the people that are dying have high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity is a big problem, and a whole lot of those people are on ACE inhibitors. Okay? In a good circumstance, when the sun is shining and everything is great, these are the side effects of ACE inhibitors: dry cough, fever, chest pain, breathing difficulties. That's what happens under normal circumstances if somebody is on ACE inhibitors and they're not working the way the doctors hope they're going to work. Those are the negative side effects. Not conspiracy theory, something you can look up and verify for yourself. So we've got the people that are getting sick from this and dying are people with specific pre-existing conditions. And by the way, still, even people with pre-existing conditions, the overwhelming majority who even get this in a bad way recover. Even people in that category. And those numbers are easily available. They say, well, it's a 14% death rate for 80-year-olds that have 5 comorbidities. Well, if it's a 14% death rate, doesn't that mean that 86% didn't die and recovered fully, even though they were over 80 and had comorbidity? So we have to be careful the way we look at these numbers. And we have to wonder about the impact of ACE inhibitors on the course of this disease. And you're never going to hear about this on the TV news because all the ads come from the pharmaceutical industry. The fact that they get their ad revenue from the pharmaceutical industry is not a conspiracy theory. You'll have to judge whether it's possible that when most of your revenue is coming from a source that you don't do anything that upsets that source. Okay? So that's some fundamental information you're not getting. Nothing controversial about it. You're just not being told. All right. So that's that. The next thing you need to know is how to create hysteria and fear. And, we're marketers and we know that fear sells and, we know all that. But sometimes we're not even aware of when we're being played. And I've just given you some really useful, helpful information that's non-controversial, and yet it's never on the TV news. Something else I should just let you know. And I'm not saying people should be reckless and wild, and I'm not saying anything about that. But the reality is, and you can look this up for yourself, and you can ask the people who are successfully running public health initiatives in Korea, in China, in Singapore. This disease transmits in closed spaces where people actively have the disease. It doesn't float around in the air. You've got to be in a room with somebody who's in a closed room with somebody who's got it for a prolonged period of time. That's how it transmits. That's what you really should know that. Social distancing, fine. Shut down the entire U.S. economy and put 10 million people out of work in 2 weeks, not so fine. Because ultimately we kind of need this thing called the economy so that people can eat. So anyway, I want to leave that aside, but right now I want to talk about hysteria. If I were to tell you in all truthfulness that everybody that develops brain cancer, one of the symptoms is a headache, I would be telling the absolute truth. Okay? And if we didn't have our logical minds working in 100% gear, we might mishear that and think that a headache means you're going to get brain cancer. Okay? Even when I hear that, even I think, oh my God, I got this. So we're now getting everybody that has a headache thinking that it could be brain cancer. Right? Now, what if we take that statement, which is true, people that develop brain cancer, one of their original symptoms was headache. What if we take that simple fact and repeat it on the news 10 times a night on every single channel? Do you think people might start to get a little worried and panicky? What if we amped it up a little bit? Why don't we take the news cameras in and focus on somebody in the final hours of brain cancer and show that? And I had a friend that died in 22 of brain cancer, so I know what that looks like. It's not a happy sight. What if we put that on TV every night, 10 different ways on all the channels, and then said, the original symptom was a headache? Do you think people might start panicking? What if we took the cameras into the operating room where people are getting operated on for brain cancer and showed you that every night, and then mentioned that, hey, it started with a headache? You think people might be freaking out? That's not kind of what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're taking the news cameras. They're showing the hottest spaces, where people are deathly ill, where they're on the respirators, where the doctors are suited up, and they're showing that as the disease. And we're all going to get it. Well, we probably, ultimately, as enough years go on, we're all going to get this thing. We're not all going to end up in that room. A very small, tiny percentage of people are going to end up in that room. And the people that ended up in there are people that had pre-existing conditions and probably were on ACE inhibitors. And again, I'm not telling anybody to get off them, because you can't get off them quickly. You need a whole medical procedure to wean yourself off them, so I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is taking a news camera into a hospital and showing us image after image after image of people in safe suits treating desperately ill people, and then telling everybody that this virus is out of control and we can't handle it. No, your immune system can't handle it. We know that because we already know that the vast majority of people who get infected with this, their immune system throws it off, just like it's designed to do, just like it does all day and night, 365 days per year. Okay, I want to give you another analogy and leave you with this. Car accidents. We have over 50,000 people die a year in car accidents. We have disabling injuries, things that people never recover from, by the hundreds of thousands, and we have significant serious injuries by the millions every year. What if the news cameras every night, all night long, went to the scenes of car wrecks, stick their cameras right into the wreckage and showed the mangled bodies, and did that on CNN and MSNBC and Fox, and we had experts, statistical experts, talking about the likelihood of you being in an accident, and they did that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At a certain point, people would come to the conclusion that cars are not safe, that we should stop driving, that the car industry should be shut down. And it would be kind of a logical conclusion based on the imagery that was shoved into our faces 24/7. Now, you might make an argument the world might be a better place without cars. We could all get around on horses. It might be quite pleasant. I don't know. But obviously, the illogic of taking the tragic reality of motor vehicle deaths and injuries and using that as a reason to shut down the car industry and car traffic, we see the illogic of that. Well, we're kind of being sold the same bill of goods here. Yes, the hospitals need to take extreme care with these patients because they are highly contagious. And yes, the medical workers, and that includes not just the doctors and nurses, but the guys that clean up and bring food, and the cafeteria workers and the receptionists, they all need to take absolutely exquisite care. Maybe they need to shower and change into fresh clothes before they go home to their families after working in a hospital. There's all kinds of things that should be done that aren't being done. I'm not going there because we'd be talking all day about that. But yes, this is significant. Yes, it needs sober and serious attention. Um, does it really need the 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 utter destruction of the functioning U.S. economy? I personally don't think it does, and I think we need to speak in rational terms about this. All right, I've recorded a 2 hour thing on this in much greater detail for my System Club members. You've got the gist. It's a public service, I think. It will be remains to be seen, I guess, but I have a feeling when all the smoke clears, what I've said will turn out to be pretty close to 100% accurate. But there's more detail to this, and you don't have to join the System Club to understand what I've shared with you. Though I do think if you're an internet marketer and you're not part of the System Club, you're kind of out of your mind, because I haven't stopped. You know, I've just stopped doing public events because they're a pain in the ass. And I didn't like flying, I didn't like hotels. I considered them very unhealthy environments, and I didn't really want to expose myself or my clients to them. So we went virtual in 2011 behind closed doors. And anybody that's has any knowledge of internet marketing and has been around for more than 10 years pretty much knows that 95% of all the fundamentals came out of the system seminar. And I'm not saying I invented them all. Some of them I found colleagues that had great stuff to say, and we all got together and did it. But there's nothing new. It's all traffic plus conversion equals profits. I mean, no one's ever improved on that, and that's really always the focus of the internet business, or any business for that matter. But we just brought that formula to internet marketing and made sure everybody really understood it. So there's always new traffic sources, there's always new conversion tricks, and we talk about those. But we're very focused on fundamentals, the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of marketing, the fundamentals of sales, the things that make a difference and the things that don't change. Especially since I retired, in quotes, from the big seminars, I put a lot of emphasis on other things too, like finances, like investments. I did write this thing. It's been on the internet for a long time. It's called the Independence Day Blueprint. Anybody that got that, read it, and followed my advice, not only didn't have a problem in the last couple of months, actually passively made money. So there's that. And now you can see the level of health thinking and advice we give. I get into more detail, obviously, on individual calls, but you got the essence of it. So you know the system seminar, you've heard of it if you're in internet marketing. You may not have known we have the System Club. Haven't been pushing it. Don't need to push it. But you know what? I don't know who else is going to give you advice of this caliber. And so if you're interested in guidance like this, it's available to you. And I hope this call is helpful to everybody, and that we all put on our thinking caps, as my third grade teacher used to say, and really think through this thing. Because right now it's a hysterical cluster fudge. All right, talk to you later.